Dustin, jump in there. Obviously, Hugh Freeze, it was believed Hugh Freeze would be taking over in year two, but it sounds to me as though because he has a better working relationship with Knicks, they have history together, he's going to be the primary play caller for the most part. But what did you hear in that?
What if Bruce Pearl came out next year and said, you know what? I'm doing hands off on our defense this year. You would go, well, hey, hold on, buddy, hold on. Your success as a coach has been built off of the defenses you draw up on the court. I didn't like it, man. You can go back and listen to our episodes from a year ago. I hated it. I hated it. Now I knew why. I knew that why he made the decision with Philip Montgomery. I understand it. You come into a situation at Auburn. You look at the roster and you go, oh my goodness, what happened here? Well, a potato famine happened. There's nothing to eat, and he said, okay, well I got to go out and I got to make something happen. I got to go get some pieces. So he probably got overwhelmed. That's my theory. He got overwhelmed. He made a bad decision in putting Philip Montgomery in charge. And then I'm telling you, he pretty quickly, if you go back and listen to the pressers in the middle of the year last year, you could tell he was already over not being in charge, but he kept referencing terminology. He's like, I can't hop in and take over right now. The terminology is too different. Shouldn't be an issue with everybody lined up right now. And look, we brought you here to do this, bro. Like, you're here to be Hugh Freeze. You have been successful calling offenses and calling plays everywhere you've been. And then you come to Auburn and you decide to switch it up. And I was thinking about this last night when I was watching this interview, Mike.
Okay.
Since Gus Malzahn's been fired, what the hell has Auburn tried to? What has been our identity on offense? When we show up to the game, what are we trying to accomplish when we have the football? For 3 years now, you can't tell me. For the last two, we've switched quarterbacks the middle of drives the whole damn year. I mean, man, don't even get me started on the Ole Miss game. 3rd and 2, you've already made this mistake earlier in the season, and you make it again, and you get a false start, and now we're at 3rd and 7 again 3 weeks after you did it. I really hope, because he mentioned the collaboration in that same answering that same question there, Mike, where he talked about having Derek Nixon here. I got familiar with my terminology. It's hard, man. It's really hard to stay at an SEC school and be successful. If you're going to go down doing you, Hugh. Go down doing you. Don't go down doing Philip Montgomery, or don't go down letting somebody else. Look, whatever you got to say for the contract situation, lie your ass off. You do whatever you got to do. Cap, whatever you got to do. Hugh Freeze needs to be one calling the plays this year. And this was my whole thing with the Philip Montgomery stuff. Was like, I understand the terminology. I understand we're too far down the road and it's a bad situation. But you are the head coach. So in 3rd and 2, when it comes over your headset that we're switching quarterbacks, I don't care who the OC is, bro. Foot down. We're not doing that because it's 3rd and 2. And we've already tried that all year, and it leads to us not getting the playoff in time and/or an offensive lineman moves early, and now we're in 3rd and long, which was obviously a disaster for our offense. So, like, step one for Auburn's offense this year, step one, and I know this sounds crazy, but this is where we're at as a program. Show up on Saturday and stick by your guns on offense and have a plan. I'm okay losing games if I can go, well, I know what the hell we were trying to do. But the last 3 years, I don't know what we're trying to do. I have no idea what last year was, and I have no idea if Brian Harsin even knows what football really is. So, just as a fan base, man, like, I get all the angst when it comes to the offense and the scoring of points and everyone looking at PT and going, what in the world? And Mike, this is why I think Hugh took the time at the very end of the interview to say, hey, guys, hey, I need some patience here. Because I think that he knows last year he made some mistakes. And a big mistake was turning over his offense that you've been running and you've been successful for. Hugh Freeze, you're one of the best offensive minds in the game, in my opinion. Top 10, top 15, I don't care how you want to draw it up. You're one of the best. Do your offense. You do your offense. Derek Nix, Ken Austin, they listen to you. You're the boss. You run the show. Mike says it all the time. You got to chew gum and walk at the same time. Kirby Smart coaches his team and still lands top recruiting classes. It's time to go, man. I want us to have an identity on offense and know what we're trying to do. Let's just have a foundation. Is that too much to ask for on the Plains?
All right.
Yeah.
Mike?
Okay. So, love that energy from Dustin, by the way.
Same.
That's what I'm about on Sunday afternoon. Uh, I didn't love this answer. This was the only part of the interview that made me raise an eyebrow. And I think what will actually happen is because if you listen, I tried to press him like, who's holding the call sheet? And he kind of went to the, we're all going to have a say. And I think what he's trying to say is everybody will have a say in the game plan, but on game day, I think Hugh Freeze is holding the call sheet. He said in his introductory press conference, or in one of the first press conferences he did, he cut his cloth in this industry as a play caller. And I'm with Dustin. I think that you have to go back to that because now, like, this has to look like a Hugh Freeze offense. And I'm going to expound on a lot of things that Dustin just said. What is your identity on offense? Well, under Hugh Freeze, it should look like 55% run, 45% pass, and it should look like at least 400 pass attempts a season for your quarterback. That's drastically different than what Auburn fans have been used to for a very, very long time. And it should be somewhere upwards of 3,000 to 3,500 yards passing a season, which also would be prolific numbers here. This would take Auburn into uncharted territory statistically and historically. Only 3,000 yard passers, Dustin, in the whole history of the program, single season.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. You're looking, as a fan, you're looking for something that you've never seen here before from this coach, and that is consistency in the pass game. So how do you get there? Well, you recruit better, pass catchers, better receivers, right? Mission accomplished. Now you got to find a quarterback who can deliver the ball at least an average level to your pass catchers. And then you have to call a game, which is what we're talking about here. Who's holding the call sheet, right? That allows for both sides of that to flourish. Now, I know Philip Montgomery got scapegoated for a lot of what happened last year, but you still hired him.
Yep.
That's your responsibility as the head coach. You brought him in and decided to do that. And I mean, of all Justin said that I felt most is you done one thing your whole career, and then you get here and then switch it up. That's that. Yeah, I mean, that set Auburn back a year in my book, because you brought in the recruiting, but in terms of moving one step closer to what you were trying to do, personally, I think it did a disservice to the kids that you inherited.
Sure.
They played in a crap system in year one. It was a mess, and I can't repeat it, but I do believe it will be better this year based on the feedback that Peyton Thorne gave me after our interview about how it went last year. Hugh kind of alluded to it in this. He said he hadn't talked to Peyton about it, but I was putting the pieces together in my head from what Peyton said or what he said. He said, I feel like Peyton feels there's more alignment between us as coaches, like we've done this together before. So he's more confident in what we're going to do than he was last year. Peyton said what he said. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I feel that. Like, I'm telling you, after talking to Peyton Thorne, I told you, Caesar, I was like, you were a little too hard on you last year, bro. I apologize. Here's some cake. Vintage guy, bring out the cake for Peyton. He deserves it after he went through last year. So, yeah, they've got to do better for these kids in terms of the system, and that starts with play calling, right? You've upgraded the talent. You've got to have a plan for the red zone and third down in places where Auburn was historically bad last year. Statistically, you hate Brian Harsin. Statistically, this offense went backwards last year.
Facts.
Statistically, they went backwards last year, and I don't think that's about talent. I think that is about the plan that they had for the talent that they had. And it takes time to build a winner. It does. So I wasn't expecting 10 wins last year, but I wasn't expecting 6 and 7 either.
Right.
And a G5 loss, and you know what I mean, a blown 4th and 31 versus Alabama at home. Like, there were just some things there that were like, you were this with the talent you had, you were this close to 8 or 9 wins.
Right.
And the difference between winning 6 and winning 8 or 9, it wasn't talent, guys. It was coaching. You didn't lose to New Mexico State because of talent. You lost because of coaching, right? You lost to Alabama because of coaching.
You lost the bowl game
Because of coaching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maryland wasn't a better team than Auburn.
Right.
Right? So there's your 3 wins right there. There's your 9 wins right there. If they had a better plan offensively. And then in the bowl game presser, he says, I was busy recruiting. And I'm like, as media, I'm like, eating that up. As a fan and alum, Caesar, Dustin, I'm like, no, don't say that, motherfucker. Right? So I keep that to yourself, keep that part to yourself. So when we get a chance to sit down and have these conversations with him, it's interesting because he does a good job of answering our questions. I love this about Hugh Freeze, without giving away too much, but saying enough that we've had enough conversations with players to be able to put the pieces to the puzzle together and say, okay, we know what he's saying here. Right. So I'll end on this. When you hear us here at the War Report or at the Up Tempo and we start beating a certain drum, can't always come out and say, well, this is what they told us. But you should know that we're not pulling those takes out of our butt. Like that's coming from somewhere very, very genuine. And I'll leave it there. So yes, I agree with a lot of what Dustin said, man. This is the accountability I think that is okay to put on Hugh Freeze, right? And it doesn't have to show up in record, Caesar, but you just have to see signs that it's moving the right direction year over year.
I just hope that YouTube doesn't hold us accountable by Mike's language and demonetizes us.
I tried to hit him with the Birmingham mumble there.
Birmingham mumble.
Yeah.
Just hope YouTube don't pick that one up. But no, I think that great points, guys. Great points. I think to your point, Dustin, I don't expect to see QB switching this year. I think moving forward, the coaches will move forward with one guy, a guy. Hopefully Peyton Thorne is that guy and that he actually takes a step forward. And I think these guys having worked together, I'm hoping for a better product, a better game plan. And I don't want to hear us saying in year 2, what plan was that? What's the plan? What's going, like, if we're saying that year 2 is a disaster, it's a disaster.
Just try to do it. I think that if they just try to do what they normally do, you're going to see better numbers. I'm cautioning fans, look, 7-5 may be on the way. The difference between me and a lot of other people's, I'm okay with that as long as it looks better on the field, right? You know. And when I say that, people think, "Oh, you don't think Auburn, you hate Hugh Freeze," and all. I was like, "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think you can move this thing forward. It may not end up in more wins in year 2, but it can certainly look a lot cleaner and give you hope for the future that this thing is headed the right direction. You didn't get that last year. You got 6 and 7, and you got a lot of question marks. I think you can get 7 and 5 and still have a lot of. You've solved a lot of things where it's like, you know that 7 and 5 season, we're headed into the next season. They were like, yo, they're close. And then all of a sudden the preseason rankings start to reflect the hope that you showed in year 2 for year 3. And you're bordering on, if not a top 20 team.
Right.
Didn't we, after Chiswick's first year in 2009, now I didn't expect a natty the next year, but didn't you all feel like the program was headed in the right direction?
Yeah.
8 and 5 didn't light the world on fire. Chris Todd came out and threw what I think it was 22 tutties to 6 picks. But he didn't set the world on fire, but you would take that number from Peyton Thorne in a heartbeat this year.
The last two, but again, it's how you end your season, guys, right? Because again, Harsin started out the year. His first year, like 6-2, like, okay, he may be, but we lost. We went up. We ended the season on a 4-game losing streak. In Chiswick's first year, we took Bama down to the wire, won our bowl game, and there was your optimism. Right? Because they were also recruiting well as well.
Yeah,
Justin, I would argue that Chris Todd did light the world on fire for Auburn. He set Auburn's record for touchdown passes that year. He broke the touchdown pass record that single season that year. So we saw he still did something that we've not seen here at Auburn, which left you with the feeling that these guys, if they could take Chris Todd and he can break touchdown records at Auburn, they know what they're doing offensively and there's hope for the future. And then they got Cam Newton and won a national title. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like I said, to your point, it was, what was that, an 8-5 season?
8-5 year.
8-5 year, man. And it was clear that, like, man, they might be cooking something. Like, Gus has got something going here.
And then we brought in Superman, and the rest was history.
Yeah, man. You were one player away from a national title run because the system did not.
Two, if you count fairly.
Yeah. I'm saying offensively. Offensively, you were one player away, right? Because here's the deal. Fairley was great, but that team gave up more points than any national champion in the history of college football.
He was a bright spot of that defense.
Yeah. So winning that was 100% about outscoring people the way that they were, and that was Cam. Right. But they had a system that maximized his talents and got the most out of him. And they needed every bit of it because you were down 24-0 on the road in Tuscaloosa. The last time Auburn went into Tuscaloosa and got a win, and it was the greatest comeback in the history of college football.
Yeah, it's easy to pull those comebacks off, guys, when you have an identity on offense. You know what you're going to do. You're down 24-0, but hey, I got a plan. I'm not scrambling. We know what works. Let's stick to it, and let's stick to our guns. And then you ultimately, you lead to the comeback. If you're scrambling and changing quarterbacks every drive, you see what it is. You're going to go 6-7.
Today's Quick Cut was brought to you by the folks over at MANSCAPED. Are you ready to soak up some summer vibes and unveil your ultimate beach body? Well, you're in luck because our friends at MANSCAPED have you covered from head to toe with the Performance Package 5.0. This ultimate all-in-one grooming kit is set to have you looking and feeling your best this summer in the sun. Trust MANSCAPED and unlock your confidence that you'll need to turn heads this season. Join 10 million men worldwide who trust MANSCAPED by heading over to manscaped.com and using code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Let's make this summer your smoothest one yet. For full episodes, make sure you head over to the War Report's YouTube channel and check out the Weekend Tailgate. Every Sunday, we're going live. Join us on the live stream at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until the next time, War Eagle.